In this episode, we take one of the most practical parts of privacy management and turn it into something you can actually run day after day without panic, because data subject rights only work when the organization has a clear operational path. Rights sound simple in theory, like the right to access your data or the right to delete it, but in real organizations, personal data is spread across systems, copied into logs, shared with vendors, and shaped by retention duties that do not disappear just because someone asks. That complexity is exactly why operational design matters, especially for beginners who might imagine a single database where you can just press a button. When a request arrives, you need to recognize it, confirm who is asking, decide what kind of request it is, and then carry it through to a defensible outcome within expected timelines. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe a rights operation as a workflow with intake, verification, triage, and fulfillment, rather than as a vague promise. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at Cyber.Author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Data subject rights are the set of legally recognized abilities that individuals have to understand and influence how their personal data is processed, and different laws define different rights with different conditions. Under the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, for example, rights can include access, rectification, erasure, restriction, portability, objection, and rights related to automated decision-making, while other regimes emphasize opt-out, deletion, or correction with different thresholds. Even when the names differ, the operational challenge is the same. People are asking you to do something specific with their data, and you must respond in a structured, timely, and fair way. A rights request is not automatically a complaint, and it is not automatically a security event, but it can overlap with both. The Privacy Program Manager's job is to build a system where requests are identified correctly and handled consistently, regardless of how they arrive or who receives them first. Intake is the first operational pillar, and it starts with a simple fact that surprises many beginners. People rarely use legal terms when they ask for their rights. Someone might say, "Send me everything you have on me, delete my account, stop selling my information, or fix my address because it is wrong," and each of those might map to different rights depending on the law and context. Intake, therefore, needs to work across channels, including web forms, email, customer support tickets, phone calls, and even social media messages that get forwarded internally. A strong intake design gives people an easy official route, like a request form, but it also trains frontline teams to recognize requests that appear in ordinary conversation. The objective is to prevent missed requests and to prevent delay caused by arguing about whether someone used the right words. If a person is clearly asking about their data, the process should capture it and route it. Good intake also captures essential details without turning the process into a data collection trap. You need enough information to locate records and communicate outcomes, such as the person's name, contact method, and identifiers linked to the account or relationship. You also need to capture what right they appear to be invoking and what scope they intend, such as a specific account or a broader relationship, like both employee and customer records. However, you should avoid asking for unnecessary information that is not required to verify identity or process the request, because that would increase risk and could feel invasive. Intake should also set expectations by confirming receipt, explaining next steps in plain language, and giving a timeline for response, or at least a timeline for the next update. This step is where trust is either built or lost, because silence or confusion at intake often leads people to escalate. Verification is the second pillar, and it is where privacy and security meet in a very practical way. The organization must confirm that the person making the request is the correct individual or is authorized to act on their behalf, because fulfilling a rights request can reveal sensitive data or allow deletion that harms the real person. Verification must be proportionate, meaning the level of proof should match the risk of the request and the sensitivity of the data involved. For a logged-in account request, verification might rely on the fact that the person can authenticate into the account, which is often safer and simpler than collecting new documents. For requests coming through email without authentication, you may need additional steps, such as confirming control of the email address on file or using a verification code. For high-risk requests, like access to sensitive categories or broad exports, stronger verification may be appropriate. The goal is to prevent both unauthorized disclosure and unnecessary friction, because a process that is too lax creates breaches, and a process that is too strict becomes a barrier that defeats the purpose of rights. Verification becomes more complex when someone is acting as an authorized agent, such as a lawyer, family member, or guardian, and the process must handle that without guessing. You need a way to confirm the agent's authority and to confirm the identity of the individual whose data is involved, while also respecting that different laws have different rules for representation. Operationally, this often means defining acceptable forms of authorization and maintaining a consistent approach, so the organization does not treat similar cases differently. It also means ensuring that customer support and privacy teams know how to route these cases, because they can require legal review. The main beginner lesson here is that rights operations must include a controlled method for delegation, or else teams will improvise, which leads to inconsistent decisions and avoidable risk. Triage is the third pillar, and it is where you classify the request, assess scope, determine applicable law, and plan the fulfillment approach. Classification matters because a request to delete might be a request to close an account, a request to erase personal data, a request to de-identify, or a request to stop certain uses while retaining data for legal reasons. Scope matters because a person might want all data across all contexts, or they might only care about a specific feature or interaction. Applicable law matters because the same person could be protected by different rules depending on where they live, where the organization operates, and the relationship context, such as consumer versus employee. Planning matters because some requests can be fulfilled quickly with standard steps, while others require system owner involvement, vendor coordination, or careful balancing of legal obligations. A well-designed triage step prevents confusion later by producing a clear internal plan before anyone starts pulling data. During triage, you also need to evaluate whether exceptions or limitations may apply, because rights are not always absolute. For example, deletion requests may be limited by legal retention duties, security needs, or the necessity to maintain records for dispute resolution. Access requests may be limited to protect the rights of others, such as when records contain information about multiple individuals, or when disclosure would reveal confidential business information in ways the law does not require. Objection requests may require assessing whether the organization has compelling grounds to continue processing under a legitimate interest basis, depending on jurisdiction. The operational skill is not to deny requests by default, but to evaluate limitations carefully and document the reasoning. When exceptions are used, the process should still provide a clear explanation and, where possible, a partial fulfillment that respects the person's interest without violating other obligations. Fulfillment is the fourth pillar, and it is where the plan becomes real work across systems, teams, and vendors. To fulfill access, you must locate relevant data, compile it into a readable form, and deliver it securely to the verified requester. To fulfill correction, you must identify the authoritative source of the data, update it, and ensure downstream systems are updated or at least flagged to prevent reintroducing the old value. To fulfill deletion, you must determine what can be erased, what must be retained, and what should be minimized or restricted, then execute across systems and confirm completion. To fulfill opt-out or objection, you may need to adjust preference settings, suppression lists, sharing configurations, or internal use controls. The main operational challenge is that fulfillment touches systems that were not designed with rights in mind, so you need pre-built maps of where data lives and who owns each system. Without that preparation, fulfillment becomes a series of frantic messages to find someone who knows where the data is. A mature fulfillment process relies on playbooks, not improvisation, because repeated request types should not require reinventing the approach each time. A playbook defines which systems are in scope for which request types, what steps are required, how to confirm completion, and how to document evidence. It also defines the secure delivery method for access responses, such as using a protected portal or encrypted transmission, because emailing sensitive exports casually is risky. It defines how to handle identifiers and matching, because pulling data for the wrong person is one of the most serious errors a rights process can make. Playbooks should also specify internal service levels, meaning how quickly system owners must respond to privacy requests so the overall legal timeline can be met. These details sound operational, and that is exactly the point, because rights are not respected by policy statements. They are respected by reliable execution. Vendor involvement is a recurring complication, so fulfillment must include a way to pass requests downstream when vendors hold or process personal data on your behalf. If a vendor acts as a processor, your contract and operational procedures should allow you to instruct them to delete, return, or provide data within your required timelines. If a vendor acts as an independent controller in some contexts, your ability to command action may be limited, and you may need to direct the individual to the vendor or coordinate in a different way. Triage should identify vendor touchpoints early, and fulfillment should include standardized communications and tracking for vendor responses. This is also why inventory and data flow mapping matters so much, because you cannot fulfill rights reliably if you do not know which third parties receive data and what role they play. A well-run privacy program treats vendor coordination as a normal part of rights operations, not as a rare special case. Communication with the requester is part of fulfillment, not something you do only at the end, because people need updates when a request is complex or when timelines need to be extended under applicable rules. The process should define when to send status updates, what to say, and how to explain delays without sounding evasive. It should also define how to present outcomes clearly, such as what data was provided, what was deleted, what was retained and why, and what options the person has to appeal or complain if they disagree. Plain language matters here because rights are meant to be usable by normal people, not only by lawyers. The best responses do not hide behind jargon. They explain the result in a way that connects to the person's original request. Even when the organization cannot fully comply due to an exception, respectful explanation and partial action can preserve trust. Record keeping is the hidden backbone of rights operations because you must be able to prove what you did, when you did it, and why you made the decisions you made. Each request should have a case file that includes intake details, verification method, classification, scope decisions, systems searched, evidence of results, communication sent, and final outcome date. This record supports audits, regulatory inquiries, and internal quality control, and it also helps you improve the process over time. Patterns in requests might reveal confusing notices, poor preference management, or repeated data quality problems that trigger correction requests. Record keeping also helps prevent duplicate work, because if someone submits the same request multiple times, you can connect the cases and respond consistently. Importantly, record keeping should be designed to avoid storing excessive personal data. It should store enough to demonstrate compliance without creating a new repository of sensitive information. Quality control is another element that separates a mature process from a fragile one, because rights operations can fail quietly if nobody checks outcomes. A quality control step might include reviewing a sample of closed cases for accuracy, ensuring timelines were met, confirming that identity verification was appropriate, and checking that communications were clear and complete. It might also include testing whether deletions truly took effect, such as verifying that a suppression flag remains active or that a deleted account is not recreated by a synchronization job. These checks are not about blaming individuals. They are about detecting process gaps before they cause harm. A single misdirected access response can be a serious privacy incident, so quality control is both a privacy and a security safeguard. Over time, quality control results should feed into training and playbook updates so the system improves rather than repeating the same mistakes. When you pull these pillars together, you can see that rights operations are a discipline of controlled movement. Requests come in, identity is confirmed, the request is understood and planned, and then actions are executed and documented. Intake ensures requests are captured and acknowledged instead of lost. Verification ensures the organization serves the right person without creating new exposure. Triage ensures the request is classified correctly, scoped properly, and evaluated against applicable rules and limitations. Fulfillment ensures the organization actually performs the actions in systems and with vendors, communicates outcomes clearly, and keeps evidence of completion. For a privacy program manager, this is one of the most visible expressions of program maturity because it turns privacy promises into real experiences for people. When the process is designed well, rights stop feeling like emergencies and start feeling like a normal, reliable service the organization provides as part of responsible data stewardship.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.